fiber is a story. The fiber tells so much about history, tells so much about where we're going. It also tells me that we could connect, because fibers connect us in so many ways. The garment is close to our body. It carries so much history, and the thread has been here for thousands of years. So I think the thread for me is a metaphor for so many things. It's life. My practice is about meeting people and everything that evolves from the meeting, the sincere and genuine meeting with people. And I have tried this out in Sweden in several practices, you could say, around movement and also just the conversation. And here in Alaska, when I finally got here, I thought it was gonna continue in some way, but I didn't really know how.
I'm Asia Freeman, Artistic Director of Bunnell Street Art Center in Homer, Alaska, situated on Nichiltna, in the land of the Ninilchik Village tribe. Today I'm joined by Berith Stennabb, a visual artist and movement artist from Sweden. I'm also joined by Mandy Bernard, a visual artist from Homer, Alaska, who was an artist in residence in Sweden, and Mette Muhli, a curator from Konstmuseet in Skövde, Skövde's museum. We've been really fortunate to be a part of a residency exchange with the museum in Skövde. And today we're going to talk about how do we connect. We're going to explore how social practice builds community and discuss Berith's present project. Over her 2-month residency, she's held meetings and built an installation interweaving geographies, language, and culture to strengthen social fiber. Welcome to each of you. Berith, what was happening in your practice that necessitated such a bold adventure as to come to Alaska?
Then in Skövde, I met Mandy, and we had this beautiful meeting around the garment. It was a meditative moment when we folded this garment in silence. So that was the start. And then I thought maybe I could do something similar here in Homer, Alaska. And it turned out that people very warmly and gladly came to the gallery space. They brought an item from their home, which they had a connection to, any connection. And I've seen gitterlilies, boots, fishing gear, old fabrics and things that has been in the family for hundreds of years. And these stories and these meetings have been very genuine and sort of very intimate also. And I thought that maybe I would just use the footage of our hands meeting over and interacting with the garment in silence. But the stories were also so warm and special, and they were also to be shared. So this was the continuous work here in Homer. People let me sort of make this as a bigger conversation with the community, and I'm so grateful.
So Mette, tell us a little bit how you chose Alaska as a potential location for a residency.
Yes, thank you. Our residency at the museum in Skövde, we have since 2014 reached out to places where we have an interest in how the art scene looks and how it works or how it doesn't work, and also the political situation and difficulties that there might be for artists. And we wanted to create a residency and an exchange where we could provide something that you might not be able to have on your own. we were also interested in to build networks with these cities or places that we chose. We started in St. Petersburg, 2014 in Russia, and we continued to Havana. And then we went to Cape Town, South Africa, and then continued to Portugal. And we also noticed that we chose places situated close to the sea or with a colonial history or so. And then we chose to visit Alaska 2 years ago.
Yeah, you know, I'm thinking about these specific locations, and not only are they, you know, by the sea and they have a colonial history or even a colonial present, but they have something that you once described as a place where democracy was fragile.
Yeah, definitely. We noticed that Alaska was a place where Trump had a lot of fans as well, and we heard a lot of stories about it, and we also found it very interesting because it's geographically not close to the rest of US. So
my question too is like, what did you think that Skovde and Kunstmuseet might have to offer that could be valuable to artists? You know,
partly, to be providing a good relationship with an institution, for example, in Russia, that's not, it's not sure that artists can, that they can have a good relation with institutions. So we wanted to provide that.
Mandy, you returned, you know, just at the turn of the year from 2 months in Skovde, where you had a residency at Kunstmuseet. And how did you know what was happening in your practice that for you felt like this is time?
I feel like it was personally really timely for me. I had made some big life changes a few years ago to have more of a focus on my practice and making different movements toward that. And so it was timely in that this felt like a next big step for me to be able to move beyond my my own studio, which I've been toiling away and developing over the last few years. It was a good chance to get outside of that and outside of my community and see how I could work outside of these sort of familiar walls and boundaries and put that to the test. And it was great. And I saw that in my case, it let me get outside of not only the physical familiarity of where I'm working, but also the confines of the mediums and style that I typically work in, and try some new things in a new place with new people. It was all really refreshing.
So you're talking about how residencies, in a sense, are kind of a testing ground for developing new strategies and emerging into a new stage in one's practice, a little bit like a chrysalis, perhaps, you know, for the for the butterfly. And so, Berith, steering back to the work that you did in Homer over 2 months, in what ways have you been able to test and develop some new ideas?
I have new ideas in the way that has to do with the stories, I think. Not only the visual aspects of the work, but also how to take care of a story, a unique story from a person that all these people that I met have unique stories, and it's a privilege to have met them and to sort of try to respect that story and how will I present it. So that's the work that I'm doing now. how can I share this? How can we share our stories? I think that's the next level of my work, that I really have to be very, very sensitive about it. And I try to do my best. Now, it takes a little time, but I'm going to.
Yeah. Would you be interested in sharing with us some of the some of the documentation or experience that opened you up to sort of new strategies and relationships, the meetings that you were able to
Yes,
experience here at Bunnell Street Art Center?
Here we are. This was the first folding meeting with Mandy in Skovde. And the pattern that sort of came out of this was what later turned into this at Bunnell. So the invitation went out to a lot of people here in Bunnell, here in Homer, and it was sent out from Bunnell Street Art Center. And it welcomed people to come here with their garments. And one of the persons that arrived was the artist Amy Meisner from Anchorage. And it says in Swedish, it is here that we meet. It's here that it begins. And she was right, because it sort of evolved to a lot of beautiful, beautiful meetings with people that I have never met before. And they stayed for maybe an hour, starting with the garment and what the garment meant to them or the item. And then it evolved to a quite personal and intimate story. But those stories are also, I mean, they're global, and we all have the same fears and joys and hopes and every feeling you could have. So this work showed me that we share this in common, and especially during this time where it has been also so scary with the Ukraine story that is happening, and that is also affecting people all over. There were all ages in these meetings, all stories that you could think of, and I learned a lot about Homer as a town, but also Alaska as land, that we are so privileged to be in this land where thousands of years ago, there were people here before us. And their hard work and their hard care for this land in Alaska has also provided and also nurtured so many fantastic people here. I learned a lot about the native stories through Melissa Shaginoff, who also was in Skovde as an artist in residence. She came a little bit later than Mandy, and she taught me how to be a good guest. And I hope that that has sort of been my goal all this time, to be a good guest, and what can I give back to this community that has welcomed me so warmly during these 7 weeks. I got to know a lot about history. This is about 100 years old, and through the hard work of female labor. In addition to everything that people did in those days and also in these days, we also have the need to create and create together. And I think this quilt shows that so dearly. Every stitch is filled with love and care. And this material also shows that there was a store that provided men's suits. And these little patches were samples from those suits. So, I mean, if you unravel and if you sit down and make time for that story, that could span over a lifetime. And I think that's so beautiful. It's filled me with so much respect for everyone that I meet, but also for my own story that was parallel to this, all these stories shared in Homer. Also about difficulties, normativity, and struggle to be the person that you are, fully embrace that, also came out during these meetings in different ways. How to be the full person that you're supposed to be, and how to be in this world where strange structures have sort of made it very hard for some people to exist. So I'm very touched looking at these photos, because I just realize how this time has really changed me also.
Well, I'm thinking about how you have arrived during a time as when people are coming out of pandemic kind of containment. And when you arrived, everybody was arriving masked. And of course,
Yeah.
You're coming from Sweden where masks were not required. And so you were sort of like walking that line early on that we've become really used to about when we can be comfortable and when we need to have a guard, you know, and then gradually those limitations have lifted. And so Homer is kind of literally defrosting as spring approaches.
Yes. That's true. And it seemed like I came in the right time of the year, because Homer is very busy in the summer, as I understand. People here are working all year around, but this time of year, it is a bit calmer. So I think people also were longing maybe to go to the gallery again and meet and sort of interact, as you say. And the fear of COVID is still here, but it's loosening up, and that also helped me to meet all these wonderful people that I have met. I'm just going to show you some photos here from the space.
So we're looking at installations on the gallery walls and a projection. What are the projections capturing?
The projections on the wall capture hands touching and footage from the meetings that I have. But also it shows a parallel story that is my own. I brought a sweater from my Finnish dad, and I'm mending the holes, and I'm doing the rituals on the beach. My first story, I had a beautiful meeting with a woman that had a family member lost at sea. We are now in a place here in Homer where the fishing community is very strong. So you know that nature here rules. And I could see that in how people have their lives going. They are sort of going with the pace of nature. And that nature can also be very cruel. I mean, the sea could change in some minutes. This form on the wall, this object, is also inspired by an oil spill in 1989 that affected both the animal life and nature, and it still shows in nature. It's still there. And so I called it Lost at Sea, but also there was a little girl in the gallery who came and looked at the form, and she said, "That's a wishbone with a beard." So it has two names. There was a class from the Homer High, and Winter Marshall Allen was here. She's the teacher with a group of super interested individuals from Homer High. And the pile of yarn that you see there is the material that I used during these 7 weeks. A lady came in the beginning with all these yarns, and you could see that that pile of yarn is also very good to rest at, so, or rest on. I think this is a beautiful image, and also how we sort of interacted. All the names, they wanted me to show their names, and we had this beautiful moment together. They didn't have the time to crochet in the space for such a long time that we wanted, so they came back with the artwork that they did, and it was also placed in the space. So I'm actually sitting right here where my meeting takes place. Outside this room, you could see the mountains over there somewhere, and in the space is something growing. And this was one of the first pieces made from the yarn that was given to me by women in Homer. I think that always starting from the middle and sort of working my way out, it's like a breathing process when I crochet. I never know how the shape is going to end, and I think this could sort of spread out in the room, and it also did in different ways. Here, for example, a man came and he added a piece of a net. He's a fisherman, so he came and added this to the piece, and I think it's beautiful. I don't know if you see it clear enough, and I love that idea that he was inspired by the things happening here and he wanted to add. I think he was letting go, or is letting go. So this might have been also a sort of a healing process for him to do the net. And I'm so grateful that he wanted to participate. And I didn't really ask for this, he just did it. So that's even more lovely.
It reminds me that during this isolative pandemic time, a lot of people have been going through normal life processes unrelated to the pandemic, just the way life throws at you curveballs where you may not be able to fish anymore, or you lose somebody you love at sea. And the opportunity to meet one-on-one, to listen and share with a stranger and make a new friend had a lot of power in the community of creating a safe space and a space of reconnection.
Yes, that's true. I think that we have been so isolated, and COVID has affected us in so many strange ways. And to be able to connect again is sort of both scary, but it's so needed. It's so needed. And I think this, I really came here in the right time, sort of to be able to share these moments. I'm so grateful for this.
There's something very particular and powerful about making a new friend, having a meeting, that there's been a lot of therapy with it. And you've really been in a position that reminds me of a therapist, where there's these very confessional, deep moments of vulnerability that people are sharing and processing. And you just hold this listening space, this respectful space. It was very intense, wasn't it?
It was. And I didn't realize, I think, until just now, when I was talking to you, that it has been quite intense. But I also have had such an immersive experience. I feel that I have been surrounded by love and warmth, and a kind of feeling that I have never experienced before from so many unknown people. I can't really describe how this is, but it has filled me also with immense energy, a good energy inside, like a light inside that I will always carry with me. I get very emotional.
Well, I think about the tremendous bravery of coming as an artist to present a very innovative and multidisciplinary practice and invite people to share these deep stories. It cultivated a lot of strength for you to hold a space like that. And it's particularly powerful to position yourself as a kind of, you held a space that reminds me of like a confessional booth or something. There was a lot going on there, and eventually you shifted to maybe having not a meeting every single day, for example, or maybe not having 2 a day.
Oh, that's true. I had to take a little bit a step back to sort of rest. Yes. And I felt terrible turning down beautiful invitations from people that I have never seen. And they wanted to invite me to dinners. And I had to say no because my energy was sort of, I had to be careful about the energy also. I wanted to be able to continue. Yeah.
We're looking at a really interesting sculpture that I remember you and Mandy installed as a kind of mountain, and then it went through a process of disintegrating and rebuilding.
Yes, this is an experience from the glacier. Some beautiful people here from the staff of Bunnell that I would like to thank so much. And some friends of Mandy's took me out to the glacier. And this beautiful, beautiful glacier was there, but they also told me that this glacier is diminishing by the year. And so I started to crochet the glacier, and Mandy added some other colors to it, and I love those. But it also makes this movement that shows that nothing stays, and especially now considering the climate change that is so obvious in this part of the world. This is easily torn. This is easily just going to. And it's also all this yarn that I got from the Homer ladies. I wanted to go back to the community because you could use this again. I like the idea of things being reused. That's how I work, and I have worked before. So the end product is not important to me. It's the making together that is important. Here is the scribble wall. It says, we do have crane birds where I live. I live next to a crane bird lake in Sweden. But we do have, I don't know if there is a strange shadow here, but we do have everything that you have also. I don't know if you could even read the words, but so Sweden or any country has this. I also extracted some words from and sentences from the stories that I heard during those meetings. I also met a cartoon artist here in Homer, and they inspired me to also grab my pen again and sort of be free to do sketches again. And sort of, that was also one branch of this work. I wanted to test all these things that I had not done before. This was added in this piece Saturday. An artist, his name is Carla Cope, gave me those feathers, and it goes well with the bird. I thank you, Carla. And next to this is a piece that Mandy Bernard added to the exhibition, a beautiful thread piece that made a little bit of a room for my Finnish dad's sweater. And then I was invited to a cocktail party. So here it is. And this is a cocktail of me, with all the ingredients from all parts of the world. I mean, we're all a cocktail, right?
So in this residency, just word by word and thread by thread, you kind of made a installation that captured your experiences and then the stories of other people, this very fleeting time.
That's true. I try to be open all the time to what's happening around me. How was the news from Ukraine? What colors can I use to describe or express, or whatever happened in this room and outside, sort of. I try to just be open.
What is the value of that ephemeral process, that temporary installation, which will be unraveled so soon, and the constant unraveling that's happening alongside the constant building and care and maintenance and making in life? What does the practice of ephemeral installation offer?
Well, if I understand the question right, what does it provide? Or
Yes.
I think it's a vivid place. It's a place where there is life, and life is forever changing, and we just have to go with the flow. I also am very interested in the Japanese way of thinking of a lived place. Like we leave small traces of ourselves, but those traces are also there for a while, but then they go away. So I think the instant moment is the most precious things we could have in life. So
Thank you so much, Berith. I wanted to welcome Tomas Gustafsson, curator at Skovde Museum. And as you observe these installations of Berith, and of course you've seen her work before at the museum, but tell us sort of what kind of maybe some new things that you're noticing. She's been like a butterfly in a chrysalis inside this space, generating some new languages and relationships. And I'm curious about impressions that you see expressing that adventure and that change.
Hi. During the Berith stay via social media and now this, it feels like, Berith, you have deepened your thoughts. You've gone further into where you already were when you left, in a way, trying to understand the world through communicating without speak or speak in a new way. I've been a lot of your works before, and it's always about trying to meet people in different ways. And I think that, but I think that 2 weeks in Homer has made you more focused than ever before.
2 months. Yeah, absolutely. 2 months.
2 months, yeah. It's a long. It's so long that I would like to stay here. But you knew that, Tomas, before. You said you're gonna love the place, and I really do.
We're plotting to take over.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, I think this experience has taught us a lot, and I wonder, just wanted to invite comments from Mette, Muhli, curator also at Skovde. She's got a small new baby, so we forgive any additional thoughts that he might provide. But I'm curious, Mette, what you see in terms of like the possibilities for residencies as you observe via this documentation. What kind of reflections are you having about the value of these kinds of exchanges?
Yeah, I'm just glad that we've been able to perform this residency. And I mean, from the beginning, it wasn't an exchange. It was us having an Alaskan artist, which quickly developed to being an exchange. And I think it's important for artistic experimentation, for cross-cultural collaboration. And I mean, it has so much in it, as we've been seeing these last 2 years. Even if it took time, it has happened so much during these years. And I mean, the artists couldn't meet physically, but they've been starting processes even digitally before meeting. And I think we, as an institution, we gain a lot of knowledge about the cultural processes, and also about how the art scene looks like, but also the artists themselves. I mean, we met during 2 years digitally, and had the privilege to get to know each other more before the actual meeting. And yeah, I think it's, I'm just so happy that it could happen eventually, and that Berith could come to you, as well as Mandy and Melissa could come to us.
Yeah.
And I think it's important also for your community and for our community, both other artists and non-artists as well, who get the opportunity to get some knowledge about how it is for artists in another country and so on. So it has so many aspects. It's difficult to just sum it up now, because that's what we're doing now, is summing up 2 years of work. Somehow.
What I'm thinking is that because when I moved to Skövde, I'm not originally from Skövde, I'm from Stockholm. So coming from a big city to a small city on the countryside, it felt like it was sort of a small pond, and it had its own ecosystem, and nothing came in and hardly anybody left. And working at the museum with the residency program and with other programming and exhibitions as well, we have been trying, Mette and I, to really bring the world to Skövde. And this exchange has really, I think, more than any other of the residencies, made that happen. We had 2 lovely artists coming and intermingling with the local art scene, and Berith is there now, and maybe even another artist will come and join you shortly. So to get that, it's sort of, it's the icing on the cake, really, to really get this opportunity to deepen and to really work together for a long time. And I think because Homer and Skövde, in a way, we're kind of similar societies. So I think it's important for all of us to travel across the world and realize that people are people, and with differences, but still we are people, all of us, and to make that kind of connection through art, I think it's the most important thing.
Yeah, I think the value of focusing on what is similar between us has tremendous power. And yeah. I also really appreciate that you two had the vision to think of bringing Alaskan artists to Sweden, because that inspired us to kind of lift the lid or expand the pond and let some fresh water flow in there and invite an exchange. And so that's how everything begins, by a dream and setting an ambition and kind of making an investment. And so I'm thinking now about Mandy, and I wonder if you feel like that Tomas's analogy of the small pond, it feels resonant for you.
Absolutely. And I, as you're talking about Skövde, I'm thinking that's what Asia has done for our community. I don't know that I would be in Homer as long as I have been without the influx of people and experiences that come through Bunnell. So it's really nice that, and we're so fortunate as a community to have that new fish, freshwater, whatever analogy you want to use, flowing through. Because it's really important for small towns, small communities, I think, and especially us so geographically isolated at the end of the road. It helps keep things exciting and sustainable for those of us that live here.
Mm-hmm. There's a natural process of also the fish, flowing in that river. Keeping that flow open allows the fish to move, into other ecosystems and to see ourselves as part of the big earth ecosystem. And Berith, now as you're poised to kind of move from this pond or body of sort of creative waters into and back to Sweden again, tell us a little bit about what you're bringing with you. What's in your suitcase in a kind of metaphorical or personal creative sense that are some new tools, perhaps? Is there anything you'd like to share? Closing comments, perhaps, Berith? I might have lost her. Well,
the phone might have gone to sleep, or
it could be. She offered so much in her tour of the space that and the depth of engagement, as we've all pointed out. I just want to take another opportunity to thank Tomas, Gustafsson, and Mette Muhli for leading out on this incredible residency exchange, and for Mandy in leading out in the exchange process through the cross-cultural threads collaboration. And then you're the first of the artists to go on the exchange. First went to Sweden, then Melissa Shaganoff came. Now we have Berith, and this summer we're really looking forward to Dano Williamson coming here for a couple weeks in June. So we're so grateful. Berith is popping in and out, but I know she doesn't have her voice in the moment, so we'll have to let the beautiful images she shared speak for themselves. Thank you all so much, and take care. We're going to be in touch and keep watching this project unfold over time.
For sure.
Thank you, everyone, for being in this exchange with us.
It's really been
Thank
a
you.
Yeah, thank you.